Hey there! Hello and welcome to another one of my tutorials, and today I will be talking about one of my recent personal projects. What you see on your screens right now is a drawing I've made recently, and today's project is me attempting to convert this drawing of an orc, stylized orc, into a ZBrush, three-dimensional ZBrush sculpt. This project is partially complete already, and as usual I did the following. I've recorded the entire process of sculpting, and then I took this video and I sped it up 10 times in this case. And right now I'm going to show you the video and I will record the comments. I will be commenting the entire process. And yeah, I hope this format will be, I hope you find this format useful, and I hope that I will be able to share some insights which again will be interesting. So let's give it a try. Okay, we're inside ZBrush right now, and as always I start with a sphere. But my approach with this project is a little bit different, because usually I just use Dynamesh extensively and I melt the sphere into the shape I need, step by step. Here I decided to go slightly different route. I'm combining different objects, in this case different spheres. I'm combining several spheres in such a way that they, right off the bat, form the rough shape of the orc. So I'm sculpting the character not in the default T-pose, but I'm sculpting the actual pose in which it was the pose which you see on the drawing, because I find that in this case the character is not meant to be animated. Previously I always worked started a character in a T-pose. Right now, if I'm completely sure that I'm not going to use this character for animation, I just use the pose which I'm going for right off the bat. So as you've just seen, I've combined several spheres using again Dynamesh, and that way I was able to achieve the result in just literally in several minutes. I already have something that sort of resembles the character, the pose of the character. And right now I'm using cylinders. I'm using cylinders because they resemble limbs more than spheres. I use spheres when I'm combining the pose, when I'm building the pose by combining different objects. I try to choose primitives which more closely resemble the shape I'm trying to get here. Right now I use cylinders for the limbs and I use spheres for the feet. And another very important thing, with this project I'm sort of experimenting. My goal is to make the sculpt quickly. And I'm not going to go for realism. Obviously this is a stylized character, and my goal is to sort of find a way to make this sculpt as quickly as possible. And here I'm trying to keep objects, certain parts of the character separated. Meaning that if you look at the drawing, you'll see that both of the arms and legs, they all have bracelets. And on one hand, it is a design element. On the other hand, it is sort of a way to disguise the seam, because, like I said, my intention is to sort of develop an optimized workflow. And part of that, in my opinion, is to keep objects separate. Right now you can see again, it is quite interesting here where I'm trying to create a hand by combining again different objects, and that way I'm able to capture the pose quicker than if I would just be working with a single sphere and Dynamesh like I sort of used to. And again, I keep coming back to the I keep coming back to trying to explain that I try to keep the model divided into as many elements as possible, because I find it counterproductive to try to weld everything together. For instance, previously I would be inclined to combine hands, feet, and head with the body. Here I will eventually combine the head with the body, but I think that hands and feet will remain separate objects, because that way I will be able to control the topology better, and just in general it's just easier to work, because when you are working on a complicated model like a sort of a like a body of a human or an orc in this case, it consists of many different parts, and all those parts they should have its own topology and its own density, so it makes sense to keep them separate, if it is at all possible. So as you can see here, I'm creating a fist by again using different elements. Later I will combine all those objects using Dynamesh, and I will sculpt on top of that, and I will have just a regular fist. But the way I approach it here, I think is much it helps to save lots and lots of time. And here I'm using starting with a primitive, the cylinder here, or the box. I'm trying to make an axe, working really rough right now, because my goal is to establish the basic blocking before I go into detailing anything. I need to make sure that proportions work and things like that, because later it would be harder to fix if I sort of allow any mistakes. It's always important, if you are working on a model which is reasonably complex, or it is a character who is posed, establishing the overall proportions and the composition is paramount. And now, when most of the elements are there, I'm sort of more focusing on the pose and on the shapes. Again, right now, for instance, it's very important to look at a character from different angles, because especially when the character is in a dynamic pose, like it is here, you have to understand that the character, in theory, can be viewed from any angle. It is not like an animation when you animate character to the camera. Here you don't know what you're going to do with this model. Maybe I will 3D print this model. And of course, if the pose only holds from one specific angle, it will be very noticeable. And so basically what I need to do here, and my animation background helps me here tremendously, because if you are an animator, if you have any experience in animation at all, you know how important it is to make sure that the weight of the character is distributed properly, and that the character is in balance, because otherwise it will look unnatural. For instance, when I originally created the pose, the first thing I've noticed is that the character is falling forward. So I spent a little time to make sure that the pose is solid. Here I'm making the belt by just cutting a regular sphere. Instruments like Dynamesh and the clip brushes, the trim brushes, but especially Dynamesh and Zbrush, or the automatic retopology engine inside Zbrush, they are just amazing, because with those tools you are now able to work very quickly, because the biggest complication of 3D modeling, just in general and especially inside Zbrush, where you are dealing with millions and millions of polygons, is that the topology is often the first victim. If you are going really artistic and you are just sculpting away thinking about the shapes, which you should be thinking about. The topology is the first thing that goes out of the window. And now with Dynamesh, it's just a couple of clicks and it is fixed. And you can even achieve a very, very clean topology using Zero Mesher, whereas previously any iteration where you need to fix topology, it would take it used to take at least several hours, because especially with a pose with a complicated character like this, with a complex topology or a difficult pose, that meant that you most likely would have to, these poses is not even symmetrical, and that meant that you would have to do the retopology manually. And with this pose, for instance, if I were to retopologize this entire body, I'm sure it would take half a day or something like that, at the very least, even if you are not going very clean. And now it's just amazing, you know. I would say it is miraculous. That's why I've decided. That's the reason I've decided that I want these characters sculpted, because with today's technology, you can really make it quickly. You can create a model quickly, and that is great. And right now, as you can see, I'm using the insert brushes. There is a ready-to-use insert brush inside Zbrush, which just creates an ear. It creates a regular ear, but this ear can later be, like you see here, very easily shaped into something less conventional, like orc ears right now. And another insert brush, I've just basically inserted a sphere and very quickly sculpted it into a fang, and then I'm just copying it and slightly adjusting. Again, it's part of the blocking, because while the main pose is already like there, established, obviously the most important part of the character is the face and the head, because it's where we look first. And now when the bodies, the proportions of the body are pretty much done, I'm focusing on the face, and I'm doing the blocking of the face, because right now it is very rough. But what I need to do first and foremost is to make sure that the expression of the face and the proportions are there. And later I will spend more time adjusting and refining the face, and later on, it will not be part of this lesson, but later on I will combine the head with the body, and I will sculpt the muscles, so the muscles of the neck, so that everything is seamless. It's very important. And again, later I will probably create the gum, because those I think the gum here is, even though the character is stylized, even though the the inside part of the mouth might not be seen very well, I think that the gum should be there nonetheless. And obviously the tongue. Next step, I will be probably adding the tongue. Again, I cannot stress enough the benefits of keeping the character divided into several elements for as long as possible. I mean, later, when it is needed, when you have to take care of certain things, when you need to make sure that the character is like, I don't know, like finalized, then you combine whatever is must be combined. But keeping a character divided into several elements is very, very beneficial. And here I'm creating a support object so that I can create this element using the extract function inside Zbrush. Right now I'm trying to establish the thickness, Obviously it is fabric, but still, since the character is very, very stylized, and we are dealing with 3D anyway, the fabric is somewhat thicker than it would probably be in reality. But we are not dealing with reality here, because reality is boring. I very quickly created the buckle using the again the Dynamesh, the subtract function of the Dynamesh. The blocking is pretty much done, and next I will come in and I will start refining things. Right now, yeah, I'm creating the tongue, something I've mentioned before. Just using a simple sphere, nothing too fancy, nothing too complex, and I'm not going to go into detailing these characters to the extreme. All I need is what we have here, basically. You can see it as an illustration or as a concept, which is a very common thing in production, when the character is made just so that it sort of signifies a milestone in the development of this character. Sometimes you just need to see the character in 3 dimensions, posed with demonstrating certain expression. Okay, the tongue is pretty much done. Now I've decided I want to adjust the ears a little bit, so they are a little bit more pointy. The X, pretty much everything is in place, but the plane, which the character stands on, I'm not sure when I'm going to create the plane. Again, oh yeah, I'm creating the plane right now. I've decided that I want to use the extract function. I've just created the mask, but I think that it is not the final. Yeah. I decided that I want to use the curve brush, the one which creates the surface. The benefit of this curve brush is that it, unlike the extract function, the curve brush, it creates an object with a very fine edge, and that is exactly what I need here. It saves time, because, yeah, it just saves time. Just refining it a little bit in certain places, constantly remembering that we are dealing with a very, very sort of stylized universe, and I want everything to look cartoony. So right now I constantly look at the original concept. It's very helpful just to make sure that you follow the design properly. So I position the ground plane in such a way that it fits the position of the legs, of the feet. And now I've decided to focus more on anatomy. Again, it is very important not to get carried away with anatomy, because first of all, when the character is too anatomical, meaning that when the muscles pop out too distinctly, it looks it tends to look a little overwhelming. So, and this character is a little bit fat. It's slightly overweight, the orc with a belly, and right now I'm establishing the basic muscles, but later I will sort of tone them down a little bit so that the character will look more like its design. And on the drawing, the character is more round. The character consists of round shapes. I want to make sure that the silhouette is interesting, that the body, that is the most important part. You have to make sure that the character is interesting to look at. It is not an exercise in anatomy where you are trying to show off your anatomy knowledge. And too often the characters, especially video game characters, they are too muscular. And that is true even for female characters. They are too muscular. Every single muscle is visible, defined. Even more, even if you take a look at Greek sculpture, they are all very muscular because, well, basically the human body is beautiful, and the muscles are interesting to look at. But like I said, it is important not to overdo it. You must sort of create an impression that there is an underlying structure to the body of your character. But it doesn't mean that every single muscle or single bone should be visible on the surface of the skin. And I've made the reason I'm talking about it is that I've made that mistake many times. Right now, working on the feet, and when it comes to sculpting feet, obviously the hardest part is to make toes, because toes are small and they are sort of jammed together very, very tightly. And I decided to approach this problem the same way I did with the hands. I'm just using separate objects for the toes, and I'm just multiplying them. Later, I will combine those objects with the toes. Basically, I will combine them with the rest of the feet. Basically, what Dynamesh did, it revolutionized the entire sculpting process. Everything about sculpting became different once Dynamesh came along. I'm using clay tubes brush, damp standard brush, and the basic smoothing just to establish the basic shapes here and there. I find these combination very, very efficient, and I believe every artist has his or her own preferences when it comes to brushes. But again, I believe that the clay tubes damp standard brush, maybe sometimes standard brush, just plain standard brush, and the smooth brush are the most widely used brushes in Zbrush. I can also add brushes like H polish to that list, but despite the great variety of brushes in Zbrush, only a handful of brushes are really, really important and indispensable. An important thing to remember here, and I'm using lots of references of bodybuilders primarily, because when a character has a huge muscle, the muscle itself tends to look very much different than if a person is not very muscular or has regular proportions, because if the muscle grows, it doesn't just become larger, it just sort of tends to look different. And another important thing to remember is that the character has some fat, and it's not very, very common to see in real life to see a person who is fat and has great muscle definition. And this character, even though I'm not trying to go over the board with anatomy, this character has a very, very good muscle definition and a fat belly. So I'm simultaneously looking at references of fat people and of muscular people. And later on, I will, pretty soon I think actually that will happen, I will cut the character into even more separate parts. I will separate the torso from the legs. I will separate the feet from the legs, because that will help me to control the topology better. And right now, I've decided to spend more time on the face. I've just sculpted the nose. I'm trying to define the jawline, the cheekbones, and the lips. It is a very, very cartoonish looking face, but even a very, very cartoonish face can be made interesting. And the fact that the head is stylized, that the entire character is stylized, doesn't necessarily mean that it is simplistic. Right now, I'm constantly switching between different subtools because here the body is a different subtool and the head is a different subtool. And later on, the head will be merged with the body, but right now I keep it separate because I want to keep it separate for as long as possible. Moving teeth around, adjusting the expression of the face. The defining feature, I think, of this character is that of the face, at least, of this character is the fact that the features are most of the features are very large, and the eyes, on the other hand, are very small. And these combination, large jaw and very small eyes, they create this menacing look because this orc, because of those proportions, this orc tends to look dumb and dangerous, like you know, like a dumb dog. If you want your character to look dumb and dangerous, give it a large jaw, big teeth, and small eyes. That's a perfect recipe. And yeah, ears here are separate objects still. Later they will be combined. Right now they are separate. And even now, I think I'm very close. I'm getting very close to the final look when it comes to the expression. And now I'm doing what I said I will do. I'm cutting the body into parts because here it is very easy. I have the belt which will disguise the seam, and there is no reason basically to keep the legs and the torso as a single object. Adding some more anatomical definition here and there, and basically I mostly care here about, I'm trying to take care of the masses, not so much of individual muscles, but the masses. I want to make sure that the silhouette is fluid. And the back especially is very interesting because the back muscle, latissimus dorsi, I believe it is called, the widest muscle of the back, is very heavy. It is huge on this character. But right under that muscle, there is some fat even on the back. And that is a very interesting combination. Huge muscle with a huge masses of fat. And yeah, the shoulder muscles are exaggerated, obviously. They're also huge. And that is one of the most noticeable features of the entire torso. These huge shoulders. The shoulders and the neck, which are so huge that the neck itself is not visible. And now to the legs. The legs are very simple. There are hardly any muscle definition on the legs because they are small. They are sort of small and skinny. That creates an interesting contrast. Huge torso and small legs. And the legs are, they have very little definition. But the masses, again, they should be there. The round masses of the leg muscles. I had an idea to use zero measure on the legs, but I ended up not doing that because basically zero measure had some trouble handling the toes. It created lots of artifacts in the toes, so I decided just to use Dynamesh. And yeah, right now the toes are combined with the... I decided to reopen Zbrush for some reason. The toes are combined with the rest of the foot already, and I even, as you can see, the foot itself is now separated from the leg. And here I've decided that it is time to create the bracelet. The bracelet which will help to cover the fact that the whole body is divided into several parts. Basically, the bracelet was made in just several minutes, very simply, using a cylinder. Yeah, I'm just using a cylinder. I want to make sure that the bracelet is sort of rough. It is supposed to be leather, so it is rough leather, and I'm not going to use any fancy alpha maps to create the leather texture. I'm solely rely on brushes like the clay brush or the clay tubes. And here I'm inserting the spikes. I've created an insert brush for the spikes, and basically the bracelet is almost ready. All I need to do is just add few final touches, like those thickening of the leather around the spikes and some scratches. The scratches are pretty rough because the bracelet itself, when added to the character, it will be relatively small, so I have to exaggerate certain things. So now I'm adding the bracelet to the character, and immediately when I start to add this element, I immediately see that the proportions of the legs are slightly different from what you can see on the drawing, where the ankle is very, very thin. So I'm adjusting the ankle, making it thinner. And the same bracelet, the same element will be just copied around the entire character. Basically, this character has 4 pretty much identical bracelets, but it is not going to be all that noticeable. And now I'm getting back to the legs, trying to refine some of the shapes here and there. Again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying not to be too anatomical here, but I want the shapes to be very clean round shapes. Some more final touches. It is always the case when you are doing anything, any sort of project basically. It takes very, very little time to establish the basic blocking, something that you think you will spend lots of time on. But the rest of the project, where you are just refining the elements, that takes the most time. Here I'm creating some bandages on the leg, very roughly, nothing too fancy, trying to create an illusion that this band is overlapping. As you can see, the character is more than halfway done. So now in the next part we are going to finish this character. But for now, that's what we've got. The basic blocking with most of the elements are already established, and the anatomy, the proportions are pretty much defined.